welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, a special comic episode. I'm your host, Ryan, here at the other host, Peach.
Comics. It's my favorite time of the year.
Yeah, so we promised you all last couple episodes. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, let me not forget housekeeping, right?
Yeah. Like, it's at top. Like, why are you trying to put something else at top? Like, these are our rules. It's our show. Come on.
You can listen to us everywhere. Visit us at podcastcore.com. For all of our info, email us at podcastcore@gmail.com. And follow us on all the platforms. We appreciate it. Leave a like and comment wherever you listen the most. But word of mouth has gotten us this far, and we appreciate it. So tell a friend to seek attachment to their homeland by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast.
Yeah, and I'll steal the thunder as far as what you were trying to say, which is we've been teasing a bit as far as taking a deeper look into the Spirit Blossom Festival.
Yes.
If you have been keeping up with us as far as chronologically, you've probably heard us cover our Zhao episode. If you haven't listened to that one yet, we'd love it if you go and back and listen to it. You would also love it if you went back to listen to it, because you might be a little bit lost once we get deeper into the sauce of the comics that go into the Spirit Blossom Festival.
Yep. And the other side of that coin is that, we were very critical of the Zehen and the Yunara bios based on the way they presented it. They're weaker bios, but there's so much other material that comes along with it. And we promised that to you. And we have a little bit of gap here as we're taking a break from the Welcome to Noxus, direct Welcome to Noxus stuff. So we wanted to dive into those to bolster those stories. And those characters as well, and also get to one of our characters that we want to talk about. We don't want to dive into Demacia yet, but we do have this character specifically we want to dig into, which is Zhao. So if you haven't listened to the Zhao bio, it kind of starts this whole, technically the Yunara bio starts this, but Zhao, you need to listen to that.
The Zhao one is going to be more important than the Yunara bio, because the Yunara bio needs this to make sense. And we haven't done this yet, which means that the bio doesn't make sense yet.
Yep. So this story is by someone we've covered a good bit of and does great work, written by Laurie Goulding, and Kudos Production on the art. Now, Kudos Production, you've probably seen their work if you've played Legends of Runeterra. If you're currently playing Riftbound, you've probably seen their name pop up as a company that Riot works with constantly, and they do great work, and that's consistent. So let's hope that relationship carries forward.
And we have a couple hundred hours worth of content of us gushing about their art. At this point.
Them and 6 More Vodka, like they just do good work. Hopefully they pay their employees well. We can only hope
so. Please don't make this a Mappa situation.
Yeah,
we don't need more of that.
But this is based on a motion comic that came out called Pilgrimage. And it came out during the Spirit Blossom event alongside a second motion comic, which we'll cover after this, and then an in-game story, which we'll get a little bit creative on giving you those details as well. So a little bit of a journey for the next couple episodes, and we hope you like it. So, we'll just get started. All good stories told in 3 parts, and we really try to make this one a 3-parter because it's very tiny.
Look, it's best told in 3 parts, and we mean best told in 3 parts, which means we're gonna stretch it into 3, baby.
Exactly. So part 1, we start with Zhao asleep, and he's kind of thinking about who he is, where he belongs, and who he serves, right, over the course of his very complex young life, right? He's only in like his mid-30s, and he wakes up to a knock on the ship cabin door and is informed that they are approaching port. And specifically, we see this shot of a flower in his window, and he mentions, he may never find the answers he's looking for, but he will try. And then we're shown the Navari province.
And we have got to talk about the Navari province before in some of our older episodes, specifically the ones that dive deeper into like the Kinku order.
Hmm.
So we're not going to explain too much as far as where this is at, but as far as with this, the only thing that I'll point out is that it is a port city and
Yes.
onto like one of the rivers, and it's on the western most point of one of the main islands of
Hmm.
Ionia, and that's about as much as you'll get as far as for the context that we're going into today.
Yeah, if you want to know more, obviously listen to any of the King Ku related characters episodes we've done. So
So that'd
Shen,
be Shen, Kennen,
hmm,
the
Kali.
Akali, Zed.
Yep, yep, for sure. So he arrives at the Navori province of Ionia after more than 30 years away, which we explain in his bio how that worked out. And a few days after he arrives at the Spirit Blossom Festival, and he mentions, the festival lasts as long as the blossoms continue to bloom, and it embodies what it means to be Ionian. And that's where part one ends.
And we do get a couple nice images as far as like what the kind of events going on during the Spirit Blossom Festival are, and like as far as like kind of like a marketplace as well as a little theater, almost like a shadow puppet theater
Yeah.
going on that's clearly meant for like the kids, and there are some kids sitting there, so it definitely has a vibe of the like, I mean, Ione has always been the far eastern
Yes.
influence region, and this definitely feels like, an anime summer festival episode.
For sure, for sure. So part two, he comes across two men kind of discussing this magnificent sapling that Zin has as something they've never seen before. And he tells them that it didn't grow in Ionia, it actually grew in Demacia. And they're baffled by this, right? They mention that that's just simply impossible for what they know about Demacia. We know that, magic has no place there, both ideologically and physically. You physically can't have magic
Yes,
in
like
Demacia. It's tough.
Petricite and magic, they don't go together.
Yeah, it's very tough. But Zen insists that he's telling the truth. And it could be a sign of this rumor that's been spreading across Runeterra that magic is growing everywhere. And this is before he's interrupted. And real quick on that point, um, remember, we're at a point where, Hitch and I constantly talk about um, the history of Runeterra, and obviously the Rune Wars is a big part of that. And a big part of the Rune Wars was the growing of magic everywhere. So being very vague and saying that at a festival, it's supposed to be kind of loose and, respectful ceremonies, so forth. You kind of don't want to just be yapping your flaps like that.
I like it, you're basically just sitting there being like, "Hey, this festival's pointless because everyone does this." Like that's what you're doing. That's like you might as well just spit in your host's face at that point.
Yeah.
Which is why like we go to this next frame and Kennen is just absolutely aura farming
Oh
on
yeah.
Zhao here.
This is the coolest depiction of Kennen I've seen,
Hands
and
down,
they should lean into
100%.
this. Like this is what you should give people. This is the Master Kennen we want. But yeah, so Zin grabs his weapon, turns, and finds Kennen standing on its blade in a very King Ku way. And Kennen warns him, your loose words can cause you trouble here in Ionia, as we just mentioned. Why? And Din is surprised in part because he's a part of the Kinku order. And Kennen is surprised that he even brought a weapon to a festival.
Like this is like going to the state fair with an AR. Like it's not even like you have a concealed carry. Like this is a massive spear.
And it's out of state. So Kennen then invites him to kind of, walk and talk with him, Aaron Sorkin style, and witness this impressive ceremony, right? That happens mainly after sunset. It's when, fireworks, baby, that sort of thing. And, before we move on, I want to mention Kennen is rocking a top knot. I I didn't expect them to just. I didn't expect Kennen to just demask. I guess he's not Shen, right? Shen is very paranoid. Kennen is just like, whatever, bro.
I mean, the more that we get of like just Kennen in this story, it's more like, dude, Kennen can do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, listen, if they want Kenan to be their Master Yoda, I'll take it.
I'm especially if he's aura farming like this, I'm
Yeah.
totally down for it because it almost makes me forgive him for being a Yordle.
Yeah, oh, I forgot. For our listeners out there, if you didn't know, Hedge is a bigot. Moving on. Go listen to the other 200 hours of whatever. Okay. So, so as they're walking, Zen essentially lets Kenan know that, he's uncertain about his place here. He feels like an outsider. And Kenan understands that feeling due to just the damage Noxus has done to all people of Ionia, right? During their invasion. And this is a topic, Hetch and I like to touch on as well, because we like to bring this in the real world, right? Especially what's going on in the current economic climate and in the current, world. Is that when you have atrocities being committed across the world, when you have this turmoil that other people are feeling directly and indirectly, it affects everyone. Psychologically, people, we're all human, right? We're all connecting to this thing that's happening. So Kenan's not dismissing his feeling, right? Being outside of the battles that happened in Ionia, because Zin wasn't there, right? Zin was snatched up kind of at the beginning of that. And he was in Noxus while all that shit was happening. But Kenan's like, I understand how you feel because you are a part of this land. You are a part of these people. You didn't know what you were feeling. You didn't know it was affecting you, but it was.
And let's not forget as far as why he was in Noxus and
Yep.
how he was snatched up. Like
Yeah.
Zinzao did not come out of it unscathed as far as when we look at like Noxian occupation of the area,
Yep.
right? Like he wasn't there as far as for the invasion of the mainland, but he knows firsthand what the Noxians are capable of.
Exactly. And Kenan mentions that during that occupation, the land even responded where it wasn't blossoming. There were no blossoms for those years of occupation. But once Noxus was pushed out, everything started blooming together, essentially trying to catch up, right? And he mentions that Shen, his colleague, has the theory that it's a sign of the spirit realm grieving alongside its residents, right? Its mortal residents.
And this is a very interesting take because not only because of the um what we're already getting as far as Zhao kind of, spitting in the culture's face of being like maybe Ionia isn't the only place as far as for magic to be there.
Yes.
But it also is kind of interesting to see this take being brought in because like it's a concept from Shin. Shin's been MIA throughout all of this because he's too busy trying to make sure the spirit realm is intact.
Yeah.
So he doesn't care that spirit blossoms aren't here. But it's like, yeah, sure, maybe like they're grieving with us. I don't know. I'll go ask them. And then he never came back.
It just never comes back. Leaves a note.
I'm off to get milk.
And then we wrap up part 2, where they approach the statue of the devoted shrine maiden. Go listen to our Yunara episode. And we'll talk about that more in the future. And Zin mentions that, he has some knowledge of her loyalty to her patron spirit that, led to her deciding to follow it into exile. And Kenan confirms that this is a fact. Because remember, Zinzao wasn't in Ionia, right? So he's hearing this secondhand through researchers from Demacia, essentially, or historians that are carrying messages to Demacia, which can be contorted because of, intent, right? But that is where part 2 ends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as like with this story, like this is going to be one of those children tales that it lasted for a very long time because the story of the Shrine Maiden
Yeah.
is thousands of years old at this point. But
Yeah.
Kenan can confirm that because he's a Yordle. Yordles don't exist on the
Yep.
same time frame as everyone else. And they're also not fully mortal in the way that the rest of the human race or the mortal races of Runeterra are. So it's very likely that Kenan probably was either there
Yeah.
or at the very least adjacent.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the other part about Yordles that we always bring up is that when they enter certain societies outside of Bandle City, they assume those qualities, right? And those histories and those ideologies. So it makes it more real because even if Kennen was outside of Ionia and he got to here, at some point through that process, he would become more Ionian, quote unquote, right? So a lot of its history, a lot of what can be true would resonate with a Yordle a lot better than just a human who's been around for a long time.
Absolutely.
Part three. So Kennen then says, okay, um, I want to ask you a question. Did you choose to come here just because of the tree? And Zin's like, yeah, I think so, right? Like, I think since it's impossible feat, it made him curious that this could grow within the walls of Demacia. And he couldn't find any records of such thing happening. So even Jarvan supported him in finding out more in his homeland, like taking that vacation to go figure this out. And Kennen goes all philosophical on him and questions, well, does the bloom come from the tree or does it come from within you? And he kind of thinks on that one.
And well, as far as like his reflection into Kennan's question, he's still framing it in the mindset of a Demacian. Like
Yeah, a
he is
mission. It's like a mission.
like, yeah, he's like, well, like maybe you're right, but like my liege lord gave me leave of one of the royal ships
Mhm.
to go find that answer. And it's like, no, like I don't know, but I'm sent here to know.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna find out. And Kennan's just like, okay, well, if that's the case, if that's the case, as far as you just trying to figure out what it means to be back in Ionia despite being, Demacian now, let's go dig deeper into that. Where are your guards? Oh, you send them back to the boat? Perfect. Let's go figure out what's going on here because you're not going to need those guards where we're heading.
Exactly. And it's cool. Kennen's a very good listener, which we know from the dynamic of how the Twilight, Guardian, like how that whole thing works, right? With their current positions of like him, Shen, etc. And it's good to see this type of interaction with Kennen. Because there's even a point where, Zen tries to stay focused on the quote unquote mission. He says, oh, I think, planting the sapling in Ionia makes sense, right? That's probably best, despite it being able to grow in Demacia. And Kennen even questions, are you referring to the sapling? Or once again, are you referring to yourself, right? Do you think you should be back home? And that's when it leads into, as Hetch mentioned, them going for a little stroll. And they end up traveling to the Kinku Temple at Kyoshin, and Zen knows that this is a great honor, right? It seems so simple to be walked there by one of the greats of the Kinku Order. And this is also an order that, has its own history of being outcast. And that's the reason they even rebuilt in the ruins of this old mountain stronghold. And Zen immediately feels this connection to this sense of homecoming.
And what's really interesting as far as like this sense of homecoming is the fact that it's with it being the Kinku order, it it's not supposed to be public knowledge.
Yeah.
Like this isn't supposed like yes, it is a great honor as far as like Zen being brought there, but Zen is already kind of in an upper echelon just by the fact that he knows that the Kinku order exists because like their purpose isn't they are the Doctor Strange of this universe. Their
Yeah.
purpose does not involve Ionia.
Yep.
It involves Ionia only when the spirit realm deems it necessary that they have to do something there.
Yeah.
So this isn't something that's supposed to be public knowledge for everyone. So why he's having some kind of connection with it is already a mystery in its own. And of course, this is a point where Kennen is like, well, now I'm just going to be super mysterious.
So we wrap up the story in part 3 here with Zen questioning. They get to these stairs. He's like, where do these stairs lead? Right? They're kind of crooked, overgrown, displaced by like stones over time. And he's like, where do these stairs lead? And Kennen's like, well, why don't you find out? Right? And Zen climbs the stairs and ends up on the top of a little cliff edge, overlooking all these blossoms. So every step he's taken from the port to this point, he's now overlooking that, right? There's a sense of theme there, right? There's a message, there's a metaphor there. And as he looks over these blossoms, he thinks to himself, quote, "It is only right that all things should return home wherever they may be." And that's where we finish the story. And it's one of those things where I like to always say the quote, "Place for everything and everything in its place." And I think it carries a lot of weight in all aspects of life. So it was a really nice ending to this very short motion comic.
Yes, and as far as like it being an ending, I mean, this is only like part.
Yeah, it's the
one.
beginning.
Like it's
Yeah.
so like it. If you're hearing it as like the end, it's like no, we're only scratching the surface here.
we're
But
just
it
getting
is a
started.
it is a very kind of like natural stopping point
Yes.
for this because it's like it's starting off with Xin Zhao just trying to figure out, well, what the hell am I gonna do here?
Yeah.
And I enjoy the fact that like we are given an idea of what he's gonna do here, which is he's going to follow Kennen to find out what like basically what the idea of the spirit blossom is. Like, is it something that grows from within a person? And then like take those metaphors and turn it into an inward lesson, which is okay, what am I going to do here?
Mhm.
Am I going to be returning home? And if I'm returning home, where the hell is home?
Mhm.
So it like changes the focus as far as from just a Demacian mission
Mhm.
into Xin Zhao's journey. So like as far as with it, like I think the other reason that it feels good is just because of the art. Like it is absolute,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
the last frames
Yes.
are incredibly beautiful.
Kudos
Like they did a great
to the
job.
production.
Oh, kudos indeed. So,
Okay.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very excited as far as to like be diving deeper into this because I think like we were definitely both critical, but I think I was probably even more so critical as far
Mhm.
as like the bios just feeling flat.
Yeah.
And like just the idea that we're going to be getting more information and painting a better picture of what's going on in the tale of Yunara and Zahin
Mhm.
is going to be it's just going to be fun. It's going to be
Yeah.
cool. And then you like the just the icing on top of that is that Kennen is involved and Kennen is awesome in this.
Yes.
Like this
Yes.
is hands down the coolest that Kennen's ever been.
This is the coolest depiction of him, and I want more, right? Like 'cause whenever we have these shining beacons of character development or representation, I like to latch onto those. And this is another aspect of that within, us already being committed to Xin Zhao being a major narrative driver. I think, obviously we're gonna keep saying it, Riot, keep leaning into him. We want old man Zen. Um, and get there, right? Because you don't want to waste good characters, right? We can have side characters, other champions that don't have much that we can leave to those, but these are characters that are proving themselves to have main potential, right?
Yeah, and a thing that we always brought up when we were talking about characters like Xin Zhao is that they would be a great narrative piece as far as connecting the world of Runeterra together.
Mhm.
It's one of the reasons like we were excited to cover a story like Riven because it
Yes.
connects the Noxus with Ionia. When we got into talking about Set, same thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, and Xin Zhao, like he is one of those characters, and it's great to see that he's being used exactly like what
Yeah.
you were saying. It's just
Yeah.
like, all right, can we bring these two worlds, like these two completely different regions together?
Yeah.
Bam, here it is, and here's what it looks like, and just in something that is like ultimately like there was no Sakuga in this. Like this
Yeah.
was ultimately a very like tame piece, and it's still already very exciting to jump into. And Zhao was great in it, and it's
Yeah.
like, thank you. This is what we wanted.
Yeah, let's leave it there. I mean, we'll keep this one shorter than most since it is a shorter story. The next one should be a little bit longer. But for now, as always, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. And we'll be back soon with the next episode.
Yeah, take care, everybody.